Hey Brian, how's it going?
What's going on, Nick? Thanks for having me on here, man. Good to see you.
Yeah,
Hi, Brian.
Hey,
yeah,
Juliana.
thanks for coming. It's so I saw you. Well, it was just a few weeks ago, right? When I saw you at in Queens.
Yeah, you did the huge honor of, or rather, I was honored to have you do a talk with me at the World's Borough for my book, and it was really great to meet you in person.
Yeah, no, it was finally good to meet in person. We've been chatting, DMing for probably years, probably 5 years. I don't know. It's been
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
And yeah, so you were doing a talk for your new book, Pan Y Dulce, and you invited me to come, and we chatted, and we talked. I wasn't sure what everyone was expecting because we didn't really plan anything, but we just talked a lot about publishing. Did you get any feedback? Did the people in attendance
yeah.
appreciate that?
No,
Or
of course.
okay,
I think people these days appreciate real, just unscripted conversation, and so I think we were speaking our minds at the time, and I think it was
yeah,
phenomenal. I think a lot of people enjoyed hearing, some of the kind of behind the scenes of what it takes to do these things that we do, and I think that yeah, they were very much excited to be there for sure.
okay, good because we're being very honest, and like I was telling things about publishing I've never told anyone. I don't think, and
You got to now, man. I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't speak our small truth, what's the point? So I think it's important to just speak free and just be raw. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's the energy.
yeah. And that bookstore is great, by the way. The Worldsboro Bookshop, Jackson Heights, Queens. All it's all Latino.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Um,
incredible. It's
it's
really
all Latino.
incredible.
No, it's all just
Yeah, I
marginalized.
mean, just show just highlighting the work of people of color, highlighting
Yeah,
bringing us to the forefront, and trying to get us in as many people's hands as possible. Our books, rather, not
yeah,
us as people.
yeah. And it was good. Like they have a lot of like indie publishers too. Um, gosh, hold on one second. I gotta
You're
answer a
good.
text. Sorry, it's childcare. I'm doing it as we.
Hey, man, listen. I understand, or
Yeah,
I will understand soon.
yeah. So you're having a baby soon. That's going to be a big deal. We both Julie has a child as well. Hers is grown up though. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
that's
it's
dope.
still a priority.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Signing up for the lifelong commitment, right? And that's
Exactly. The longest of your life.
yeah. No, I'm excited. I don't even know what to expect. You know what I mean? I don't even know. I have no idea. But I'm excited.
no, I mean it's. I don't think there is a way to prepare for it.
Yeah. I think the only thing I'm doing to prepare is like eating a high fiber diet and trying to exercise and drink water and shit. So
That's a good
Yeah.
way of preparing for
I'm
real.
like,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm like, man, maybe the Pinot Noir needs to take a break. That yeah, like maybe I need to drink like water. Like, you ever heard of that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the wine helps here and
Fair
there.
enough.
Once the baby comes, it's
Yeah.
like it'll relax you a bit because there are moments, at least for me, with both
No,
of my
I
kids,
listen.
where
Yeah,
I needed it.
I hear you, man. I hear that. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see.
And my one advice is just use coconut oil for everything. Like anything the baby has, any like
Okay.
rash or thing, all the
Oh.
creams and shit, they don't work. It's just coconut oil
Shit.
works on
Even
everything.
olive oil, as they do in Greece.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Olive oil too, but I found coconut oil is really good,
Hmm.
That
and
sounds.
then you can bake with it. So
Yeah, I got plenty of that stocked up, so you ain't got to tell me twice to use coconuts, man.
all right, all right, yeah. So this book, it's great, and I haven't cooked anything with it too yet. I'm going to,
No,
and
no
I think I'm
pressure.
gonna make fugazetta this weekend. I was
There
looking
you
at
go.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you have Argentine pizzas in this. It's such like an overlooked kind of category. Julie, do you know much about like pizzas in Argentina?
Yeah, I mean, I know that in a way, obviously, they follow the Italian uh, heritage, right?
Yeah.
Because of the immigration there, but I think at this point there is a category of Argentinian pizzas that is unique, and they have like these favorite ones with onions and the
Yeah,
ones
yeah,
without tomato sauce.
Yep.
And I think it's also about the places, how they became a place of gathering, like pubs, like bars, coffee shops. I think there isn't a it's a category on its own as a place of gathering, apart from how many pizzas, flavors, and
Yep.
so yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. They're great. Like the fugazetta, like the onions and cheese and like these big gooey things. Like I still think about like going to La Mazzetta in Buenos Aires and
Hmm.
like I was totally full from the night before, and I just like I went there before lunch somewhere else because it was the only time I had to squeeze it in, and I got
Yeah.
like and you could only buy like the whole thing, so I bought this giant like box. It
Oh
probably weighed
man.
like 4 kilos of just like cheese and onions and dough. Like I brought it with me to the next lunch, and it was just like dripping with grease and stuff. But it was like,
That's what I'm talking about.
but it was so fucking awesome, and I can't believe it's not a thing in New York yet. Like you would think that,
No, yeah. There's someone doing it. It's my homie OG Papa Fern, man. Fernando, man. He's a beast, and he does some really exceptional, pop-ups all over the city with different. He collaborates with different pizzerias, and you gotta look him up, man. His videos are crazy.
okay, yeah, I was about to say there was one guy in the
Yeah,
city
it's
that's been
probably
doing
that.
pop ups. That's probably the guy.
It's
Okay,
probably the guy. He is the guy. I think like New York is a particular place when it comes to pizza. I think there's so many opinions about pizza, and I think the first thing people say is typically like that's not a pizza or some
yeah,
shit like that.
yeah.
So like I did some what the hell was it called? I forgot what it was called. Complex Pizza Wars or some YouTube show or something. I went on there. I made a fugazetta, and I remember the team that was trying it. They just were like not convinced. They were like OG Brooklyn
Yeah.
types, like pizzeria owners, and they were just not convinced it was a pizza. And I think that's the uphill battle, and that's also part of the whole concept of doing a book like Pan Y Dulce. Is like fighting that uphill battle to get recognition for what we make in Latino America. It's like you have this breadth of baked goods and foods that are derived from indigenous traditions, European traditions, colonist traditions, enslaved people's traditions. All kind of traditions are wrapped up into the baked goods and foods, yet it's like seen as like a lesser class than European products. And I think that's kind of ironic because for example, like pastry was potentially invented in Egypt, or it's like they don't have a real claim on baking and bread. I mean, bread,
Hmm.
bread probably comes from the Fertile Crescent, right? So it's like, it's like let's forget about how we got, uh, uh, you know, implanted with probably African tradition, but let's like minimize what we did in
Hmm.
the Americas because it's not great. That's not good. That's nothing. That's not real. So that's kind of it. Almost like I've been because it took so long to make this book, and it's like all I think about. It's all I do. It's all I write about. It's like, am I burning myself out? I'm just like, fuck. Can I just bake? Can I just bake a loaf of bread without digging up my ancestral trauma? Please, like, should I just forget about it all? Or is that,
Too late. Too late.
yeah. Yeah.
No, I honestly like one of the notes I have, before this interview and before we did our
Love that.
talk was that I like that you have a bread book that's personal and it's about you. Like New World Sourdough is, it's as much you as it is like a, you know, culinary trend. I think it's
Correct.
it's your personal approach to these breads, which obviously carried through in this book. But a lot of like bread books I read, they seem so technical, and it makes it intimidating to me. Like I get like if you're baking all the time and you want to get, be a perfect bread maker, all the
Yeah.
time and that,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to be that. Like I want to make some breads, you know, once, twice a week, maybe, like have a nice sourdough every week that I make, and just supplement my bread intake that way. But it seems so intimidating sometimes. Bread's so
Yeah.
technical and it's so precise that I appreciate that I see the person behind it, even though I know you now. But even before that, I appreciate there was a connection to a real person and not just like some lab somewhere that was like a testing facility for.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that. I think it's interesting. It is. It's true that this idea that bread is technical. I think it kind of cracks me up. I mean, like I've like it's bread. It's bread, dude. This is
It's
bread. It's,
alive.
it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like one of the most. It's one of the oldest forms of nourishment that's ever existed. It's one of the most quintessential and classic things that's ever been consumed, and it's been consumed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years in different shapes and sizes. And I think obviously as a professional baker, or at least at the point when I was baking professionally, you know, bagel shops. I've worked in, overnight wholesale Italian bread production. I've run pizzerias. I've run Italian restaurant group bread production. Um, I know how, I know how to use all the ovens and everything, right? I of course would, being a bread baker as a profession is a very respectable profession. It's a very labor intensive, skill intensive. It's not easy. You can't just overnight go be a bread baker at a
Mm-hmm.
and run a production, right? That is technical. I think being a baker in a bakery production is incredibly technical and an incredible achievement, and it's brutal.
Yeah.
But baking a loaf of bread at home, I don't think
Yeah.
is technical. I think it's the easiest thing you could ever do. It's three ingredients.
Right.
You put it in the oven and you take it out. And at the end of the day, I think a little bit of the social media consumption has created the idea that you need this perfect loaf, or that your crumb has to look a certain way, and and that's great. It's of course you want to bake a loaf that opens up, but people, as like humans, human beings, we've been eating bread for so long that it's never needed to be perfect.
Right.
This is it's Can I curse on this? I was gonna
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
say, I was
Yeah.
just gonna say it was bullshit. I wasn't trying to
Yeah.
say anything good. But it doesn't make sense that all of a sudden, I'd say within the past 10 years, I don't know, maybe 20, I don't know, that all of a sudden bread needs to be this perfect
Mm-hmm.
scientific
Yeah.
method. And if you don't understand all these words, that you won't be able to make a loaf of bread at your
Right.
house. Like, what are you talking about, bro? We've been
No,
making bread at home for years.
I know. But then you see like modernist baking or whatever, and it's like this giant thing, and it's like I just see the books. Like I don't even have to open them, and it's just like fuck no, just like I'll just buy
Yeah,
bread.
I mean,
It's just so intimidating.
Yeah.
I'm,
Overcomplicated for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. Look, I think I, I have a different style. Other authors will have a different style. Other bakers have a different style. So I have books like Ken Forkish, what's Flour, Water, Salt, Yeast. That's a staple book I have on my shelf. I used to use that book a long time ago, and it was great. And one could say it's technical. I have a book by Mauricio called The Perfect Loaf. He's a really cool sourdough blog guy, and it's as we talk, quote unquote, technical. And I think it's exceptional work. I think it's great work. It's just a different style.
Yeah.
That's all.
Hey, also there is a different way of looking at it, I think, and it's like both can be technical if you want, but there is a difference between professional and domestic.
Correct.
And domestic follows different rules, and you can get technical with experience, but it's not, you cannot apply the same standard or the same rules or the same, even the same instructions. So I
Yeah.
think that's when things become overcomplicated, intimidating, and they act, contraproductively, because counterproductively, because people don't want to bake anymore. So I think it's important to keep this difference in mind. Domestic not the same as professional, and you can get a lot of experience in both. It's just different, a different way, a different feeling, a different connection with it.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I'm not saying like your book is like this like lowbrow, non-technical thing. I'm saying it's just as technical as the other ones. To be like the
Yeah.
recipes are probably this,
Yeah.
similarly format. It's just presented in a way that feels approachable and it feels personal. That I'm not so intimidated like I am like when I look at modernist bread or
Yeah, no, and listen,
yeah,
you don't have to clarify at all because this is the intention of my style. I intentionally don't use words like autolyse when I write
yeah,
because if I'm in bakery production and I hire a baker and I tell him to go autolyse the mix, I would
yeah.
hope that they knows what I'm talking about because we're in a professional setting. But I don't, I think a word like that could just scare people away. They're like, well, what the hell is auto? What do yeah, they do. They'll send that. So simple. I like to keep it simple, and I like to just let people know that they're going to succeed at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
of course, there's technique in my book. There's so much technique in the book, but I just want it to appear to people as if it's something achievable,
Mhm.
something that can be fun, something that will help nourish their family and communities. Because I think that baking at its core is about nourishing your family and your community and enjoyment, enjoying the process, the labor of love. And so that that's why my style is the way it is. So that's not something I shy away from. I'm not trying to be the technical dude with the desired dough temperature of 78 degrees. No. Yeah, it is what it is. I know I could tell you to take a thermometer to your dough, but I don't see it as something that's really that critical when you're at home just trying to make a couple loaves of bread.
Yeah.
Um, One thing I really appreciate in this new book, um, is that you do have sourdough preferments
Oh yeah,
in all of the recipes, because I hardly ever see these recipes, with like natural yeast. Like in Latin
yeah,
America, it's like they've just been reduced to the basic,
yeah. That and yeah,
production, and there are these wonderful breads, these great textures all over the place, from Chile to Peru to Ecuador to Brazil, and they lack flavor sometimes.
yeah. I think that the biggest thing that I've noticed in traveling in Latino America is not that people don't use natural leavening techniques as
Hmm.
much as they are not really able to attain high quality flour.
No, that's true.
And then a lot of industrialized baking that happens in Latino America. It's just like industrialized baking in the United States. In my opinion, it's no different. Like when you're in the U.S., you gotta look up where to go get good bread.
Yeah,
You can't just assume there will be good bread. You can't go
yeah,
to a supermarket and get bread and it's good. It's terrible. All supermarket bread's terrible for you. Most bakeries, and this is just a blanket statement. It's not specific to any part of the country, but most bakeries are not making things at a level where they're fermenting things
right.
the right way, using whole grains, using regional grains. You got to look it up. I could tell you 5 bakeries around me, maybe like one's up in Hudson, Melda Bakery. There's I mean, I don't know. A lot of bakeries in New York City are all about viral pastry trends more than they are about making healthy, delicious bread. So, and like Juliana, you're out there in LA. I mean, you can go to Gusto Bread, which is a panaderia on Long Beach.
Mhm.
You could go to maybe Clark Street Bread. You could go to maybe I think Lodge. Um, you
Friends
know,
and
I'm,
family.
Friends and family. Roxana's an incredible baker. But again, you're talking about naming 5
Yeah.
bakeries in 2 of the biggest cities in the world,
Yeah, working with
and
those ones. Yeah.
two of the biggest culinary like institutions of the country, and you still have to go out of your way to figure out where to get a good loaf of bread. So now take that and go to Latino America, where there's not much money and economic resource, and import export's really difficult, and the grain doesn't grow as well. So I think you're seeing now movement by bakers that are able to, like in Peru, there's a baker, and I wish I knew her
Pan
name
de la
off.
Chola, probably. Right.
Probably.
Okay.
There's a couple. There's a couple in Peru. There's several in Mexico. People are starting to use these techniques. It just takes longer to implement because the resources are thinner. Even getting something like a cast iron pot to bake bread hot is hard to get. I did a consultation in Medellin, and the bakers there were like, they're making sourdough, but they can only afford this little oven with sheet pans, and it just doesn't bake the same way. They cannot get a hearth stone. It's so I think it's just going to take time for bakers, boots on the ground, to be able to figure out how to get the right grains, and figure out how to get the right equipment to start baking things in a the Industrial Revolution, from a bread perspective, kind of fucked everything up in terms of instant yeast. It just everyone went into the mass production, and it's easier, it's quicker, you make more money, but it's not healthy at all. So
How does that work? Your partnership with the flour mill, the Sunrise flour mill. That's where you
oh
get your.
yeah, so that is one partnership that I have for some products that I'm working on, which are going to be different, like bread mixes. Uh, that's like fun, right? It's heritage grain, organic flour. It's grown, hard red wheat, soft white wheats. Um, you know, I wanted heritage grain flours are essentially varietals that are some of the original varieties of wheat that have existed. So it's very flavorful. It's very delicious. But keyword organic, keyword not bleached, bromated, or treated with any kind of chemical whatsoever. And that's what attracted me to working with that brand, because it tastes incredible. And so I just want to make some fun mixes to get into people's hands so they can just start baking with really delicious flour.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it's part like, hey, let's make content together, and it's also part, hey, let's actually make some really cool products in the next, I can't say a few years or something like that,
Yeah,
but like, we're trying to work together to come up with some ideas to make it fun, but also make it healthy and delicious.
nice. So I have a question about the how you feel, conceive, have thought about Latin American as a macro region, because obviously there are as many differences as similarities.
Hmm.
And I wonder if during the process of designing this book, coming up with the recipes, gathering information from different countries, you I don't know, how did you feel the macro region and what defines us as Latin American? Because again, there are different levels of sweetness, different ways of handling certain ingredients, even
Yeah.
when we all recognize what Latin American is, but still.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the root of everything, like Latin America is essentially a concept that was constructed by the colonization of lands that were uh, owned, I guess not owned, but lands that were inhabited by indigenous people. Let's say that, right? And so when you have there's several different several different people came to these lands and just did whatever they wanted to do, right? So notably, you have the Latin based language countries like Portugal, Spain, France. Uh, these are the three biggest culprits, you could say. You have Italy, who did not colonize in Latin America. They did elsewhere, but not in Latin America. And yeah, you have Portugal. Obviously, you look at Venezuela, you look at Brazil. Mostly Brazil in terms of language, but Venezuela does have a little bit of Brazilian footprint, Portuguese footprint rather. Um, and then so you have England as well, right? So England is the language is not typically or at all part of that kind of that branch of languages, right? So you've got your Jamaica, you've got your Belize, your Trinidad and all that kind of thing. Not necessarily considered Latin America by most people. I don't think by anyone really would say Jamaica is part of Latin America. But you have Dominican Republic, you have Cuba, you've got um, Central America, Mexico, obviously. Like so, this Spanish, the influx of Castellano of the Spanish language. You have some people, believe it or not, will say Haiti is not part of Latin America. I think it is. It's colonized by French. Brazil, obviously, Portugal. So I think it's like you look at this region, you look at the Caribbean, you look at Central, South, and North America, and you kind of just dig into what really happened here. So after these lands were colonized and these languages were and ingredients and all that kind of thing was basically forced upon people. I mean, but to this day, still speak Spanish or Castellano rather, which is the actual name of the language, right? So not a lot of people. I don't know. My mom doesn't know indigenous languages from Honduras. My mom speaks Spanish, what we call, and people are very, very proud of speaking Spanish. Everyone in Latin America is extremely proud of speaking Spanish, but I think at the same time, they're like, when you do enough research, you do realize that there was a loss that occurred, and the loss that occurred was the original language of the people that inhabited the lands that we come from. There was a loss. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but it's kind of how I set up the thought of where I wanted to explore in terms of pulling recipes from. It's not super deep in Haitian baking. I have one recipe, I think the salt cod, which is the it's a Haitian patty essentially, and it's so good. It's like it's one of the staple baked goods. The book's big, and it was hard to fit so much into it. So,
Yeah.
some countries I've got so much more to explore. Nicaragua, El Salvador. I mean, there's a little bit of in there, but some of the countries like Peru, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil have lots of heavy hitters that I definitely wanted to incorporate and make sure that I got right, or as well as I could. So it's just a surface scratcher, man. I mean, I even though it took 5 years, that's nothing. That's nothing. 5 years is nothing in terms of research, in terms of scholarly work, in terms of academic and conversations and traveling. Like, man, I could spend 100 years doing this and still never make the best version of it. I think so. I think it's a surface scratcher. It's an intro. It's trying to get people to just trying to say, hey, don't forget about us. Don't forget about what we do and what we bring to the table in terms of artisanal baking.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it looks like an inspiration for you is this shared sense of loss, but also a shared sense of pride.
Yeah,
And
yeah. If
yeah,
we're not,
that's a good way of defining the region.
yeah, I mean, if we're not prideful of, if we're not, seriously, I'm Hondureño, I'm Honduran, and
Mm.
even though I'm American, both my parents are from Honduras, and growing up, it was very Honduran in my house. Let me tell you. So, but when I go to school, people just don't even know where Honduras is. They think it's in Mexico, like that. That's the kind of stuff that growing up in the U.S. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. I've lived in Miami. I've lived in New York. I've traveled a lot, and like people don't care or realize or think to care about anything about it. They're very. It's like Mexico is Latin America. A lot of people really just like, yeah, Mexico, tacos, burritos,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, it's not that. Hey, here's a baleada. It's like, oh, that's just a taco, and I'm like, I mean, you're not. Here's the thing though. It's like, at you're not. it's not exactly wrong. I mean, it's 100% wrong because it's not a taco, but but the way food traverses and boundaries get crossed, like raviolis or dumplings, yes. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to pull up to Italy and just be like, let me get these dumplings.
Mhm.
You have to respect the transition that foods make across boundaries and across time occurs. So whilst they are, whilst pierogies are dumplings theoretically, and but they're pierogies. They're a very distinct thing. You have, so it's interesting. Like when I'm like, oh yeah, baleadas. It's like, oh, so a taco with beans and cheese. It's like, well, fucking yeah. If you want to be a fucking prick, you can just simplify everything like that. Sure,
Yeah,
but
it's very incomplete and lack of context.
yeah, and so it's interesting how in Latin America that happens and no one bats an eye, but if you call pizza a flatbread, everyone will freak out, right? And the whole world gets outraged. Oh, pizza's not a flatbread, but whatever's happened over there, we'll just call it whatever. Yeah.
But what's the best way to? I always wonder this. Like, what's the best way to challenge that? Like, because at the same time, everybody, like, if somebody makes a fucking baleada wrong and posts a picture on Instagram or mislabels it, people also flip out now.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
yeah.
Even
but it ends up backfiring because and then it's like there's this just ridiculous fight of like, it's just food, share it. And then it's like, no, this is the right way. And I don't know. And it's just like, there's never like, somebody always like goes too far. And, and it just becomes this ridiculous thing and everybody's wrong and just ashamed of themselves for acting like that to people they don't know on the internet.
Bro, the internet's a disaster.
Yeah,
it is such
I know, but it's like, how do you really change things if you can't just like call people out all the time on fucking social media?
No, I have a video of a baleada that I posted a month ago or something like that, and it's like it's fucking awesome video. It looks delicious. It's performed well, and there's so many positive comments on it. I mean, there's so many, but there are literal Central Americans though that wanted to pull up and be like, "Oh, those beans aren't the right color."
Yeah,
I'm just like, bruh, that's I don't know, the lighting. It's like, oh, you didn't use real Central American red beans. I'm like, yeah, in this video I didn't because I'm just in my kitchen in New York and that's what I had to. It's and that's the other side of it where there are rules, but yeah, I believe rules are meant to be broken. I think like when you cook food, you cook with what you've got. I mean, that's how you get deep dish pizza. That's how you get, Americanized Chinese food. It's still Chinese people cooking it, but it's not what they would cook in China. They're just cooking it that way because that's what they've got. That's how they cooked it. The deep dish. It's like, well, they wanted to make pizza. They had these deep pans, whatever the little story is. But then it's like, well, that's not pizza. It's like, guys, calm down.
I know. It's like they're bringing up their personal experience and trying to like equate it with the rest of the world's personal experience.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even in Honduras, like the beans change by regions, like it might be black beans somewhere and then red beans, and somewhere else. So baleada is never just, this straightforward thing that's always the same. It's always.
I mean, my mom puts egg in her tortilla dough and coconut milk. There's also comments of like, oh, there's no egg in tortilla and I'm Honduran. And I'm like, well, my mom's Honduran and there's egg in the tortilla. So how do we continue this discussion? What else is there? What fuck else do you want us to say? Like she's from there. So, coconut milk in the beans is a gangster move that my grandma showed us on my dad's side. So my dad's the black side. My mom's the indigenous side, both from Honduras. So coconut milk in the beans, coconut milk, so it's, some people don't do it. Hey man, we all just trying to make it, huh?
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. It's like, it's just hard when it's like we're so reactionary like these days. Like, I'm not saying you guys, like, but no, especially when you post a recipe or post a piece of writing and it doesn't equate to somebody else's personal experience, and it's like there just has to be a fight. And
I'm not. That things are evolving so fast right now that I don't even know what's up or down, bro. Like, I don't even know what to do some days. I'm like, well, every single part of the industry, from actually having a bakery to, writing or being a recipe creator or whatever kind of hybrid individual I've become that does all of these things. All of the components move too fast for, in my opinion, a real human to keep up with. I don't know that this level of movement, of this level of, and I'm not trying to be a old head. You know what an old head is?
No.
Old head. Old heads like it's like uh, old heads are, let's say in sports terms, old heads like my dad would be like, there's no player better than Pelé, no matter like what he
Right.
sees.
Yeah.
Old heads just die on like what I saw was the best.
Okay.
So like old head mentality is, for me, I'm just like, I don't think I can keep up with the progression here.
Right.
Does that make me sound like I'm a dinosaur, or does that make me sound like I'm not going to be able to survive if I don't pay attention and keep up? I don't know. I remember posting a picture to Instagram in 2016, and that shit was it. You just posted a picture of the bread, moved on with your day. People engaged with it. Oh man, that's dope. And it was great. Just a single picture of the bread. Now you got to do a whole TV production. You got to set up 2 cameras. You got to have lights, ASMR sounds. You got to put the trending music. You got to You got to post 4 times a week and let it hit bang, bang. And I'm like, geez, what a shift. What a shift in our mentality to consume. And I'm a little bit, like, what, like I said, what's up, what's down here, man?
No, I'm the same way, man. Like I feel jaded by all this social media and stuff, and it's like, it's hard to break yourself free of it, and create this own path. It's like it's so hard to avoid it.
I mean, I'm a participant. I'm
Yeah,
participating, and I'm not. I'm not trying to complain. I'm just genuinely saying that my brain is struggling to keep up sometimes. I'm like, it's because it's a lot of shifts.
yeah.
Is TikTok going to get banned tomorrow? Even if it gets banned, should you use a VPN to stay on it? Should what There's no more fact checking on these apps now. I don't have an opinion about it. I'm just like, what do we do? What are we trying to do here? There's a lot of noise
Yeah.
for what?
No, I know. It's just like you can't keep up, and the only people that keep up are the ones in charge of these algorithms that dictate how things are going to change. And I think we're at this point to where you can never win in that system. Like very few people can. I don't know, Julie. You're rolling your eyes, or
No, no,
maybe,
no.
no. Okay.
I'm not at all. Just listening.
Okay.
No, but that's no different. It's no different, in my opinion, than the restaurant industry. It really
Yeah,
is no
I agree.
different because what used to be someone's ability to have a mom and pop restaurant is impossible. It is impossible. Doesn't exist, right? Especially and specifically in any kind of major or cool city, any kind of city where you would want to be. Miami, New York, LA, Seattle, Austin, New Orleans. Well, New Orleans is fucking stagnant and still pretty affordable to do shit there. No one does anything there. No offense. Cut that out. Don't let me cut that out. Cut that out. Don't put that in shitting on my own city. But seriously, if you go to any of these cities and you're just, I want to open a bakery. Like, I want to open a bakery in New York.
Yeah.
I've been trying, and I've been spending and spending and spending, and the labor and the rent and everything and the overhead is so incredibly astronomical that there's no way someone could have a mom and pop shop
Yeah.
here. You have to have hedge fund investors come in. You have to get some person, typically some dude with a bunch of Wall Street money or something, who wants to scale your concept or who wants to, So now what you see is the model of, first of all, if you open up something, you got to have a line out the door, and it's got to be all over TikTok.
Yeah,
you gotta have a line out the door. It's got to be all over TikTok. That's you. If you ain't doing that, no one gives a shit about you. If all the influencers in your city aren't there posting on it on TikTok, then you failed.
Yeah,
that is it.
but not only that, they have to stay there. They have to come day after day,
Yeah,
even when the next trend
pay your
comes.
bills. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's
So
impossible, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
I'm a little bit jaded of that. Where I'm like, what happened to just a bakery,
Yeah, just a good
a
bakery
bakery,
that
a bakery?
people go to, and
I have and this is chances are no one that I'm talking about will be listening to this. So I'll, but I have so many friends, and I know so many people. God bless them, love them to death, that run bakeries, and not a single one of them has ever come to me and said, "Man, I'm making great money, and I have days off."
hmm,
Like, you know, zero of that. It's I'm barely staying afloat, barely making money. I never have any time off, and a lot of them don't even own 100% of their own business. So, people my age, trying to just to share their passion of being a baker is that hard in this country right now that you can't even really do it.
So
yeah. So what do we do? Shit.
What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say,
Yeah, yeah. You were about to
Juliana?
say something.
I feel like you're trying to. What are you? What you got? What's good?
no, I have a, I don't know, a concern and frustration. And so I was like, what? I mean, so yeah, because at the same time, I think, I don't know. I mean, I think eating out should be more of a very special thing to do. I know that leaves out of the picture many restaurants, but I think people should get used to just cook more, prioritize buying the best food instead of going out so much, because restaurants are still not viable anyway at the end of the day. And I wonder if that happens, then you can prioritize places where you can actually get more daily things like
Yeah,
bakeries, and
yeah,
maybe that balance, instead of fine dining and so much of that many of these places still have to close at the end of the day. They're not sustainable, or if they function is because, I don't know, the chef is all over the media or whatever it is. But I I mean, I agree with you, and I think it seems to be so unviable that I wonder if a different proportion of where people put their money, but that means a change of mindset in the consumer. And that's why when people think, oh, we need to understand what people want, no, you need to educate. I mean, people need to educate themselves to really prioritize other stuff, like mom and pop bakeries and people that are really nourishing and sustaining life,
yeah.
because that's it. I don't know, I don't have a solution, I'm just
No, no,
frustrated.
yeah. I mean, I don't think there's exactly a solution because the first of all, what I'll say is like when you're in Latin America, when you're in Europe, um, those are the parts of the world I've been to like the most for comparison. Um, you can have a mom and pop bakery.
Yeah, more of
It's
that.
in fact it is basically only that. And
Yeah.
there's cities like Paris, and don't quote me, I think they don't really let you develop. Like that's the issue is developers here in the U.S.
Mm.
man. And I'm not trying to like be on any kind of like capitalism shit
Yeah,
or whatever.
romanticizing
No,
other regions, yeah.
but I'm just being realistic that like once developers got their this John, what is it, John George? He's got this big food hall in the seaport.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah,
been to it, but yeah.
I went to it once. Beautiful bakery, all kind of shit in it, all this crap. I just saw an article today. They're losing $100,000 a day. They're losing $100,000 a day. They just fired all their undocumented workers or some shit. They're losing $100,000 a day, and they're losing $8 million a year, 80 million. All
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you have the name of one of the most decorated chefs you could find, and you create this big concept in New York City, the city with the most money in the world, or something like that, and you're losing 100. So how the hell am I supposed to make money if you are losing that much money, and you have all that money to make something dope? how the heck do you expect a regular person to make any money? And that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
The development, the investment in development is destroying.
And also subsidize, because in
Hmm.
places like France and Greece, they subsidize wheat.
Mm-hmm.
And when the pandemic, the only thing that didn't shoot down in France was bread, because they know what's basic.
Yeah, man.
So, but like bakeries and boulangeries. So I think, I mean, that's when the state could help, because again, this is daily, as you said, is one of the oldest. There is nothing that is not basic about it, and that's when the state should be a little bit paternalistic, because why in France, why in Paris, croissant or a baguette that is like €5 or €6 is outrageous.
Yeah.
People don't accept that. If they do, it's because it's a luxury bakery that uses other ingredients. Okay, fine, you can have that experience once a month and you choose that. But the daily stuff keeps to reasonable price because the government
They
knows
have
that's
to.
part of the
Yeah.
basics.
Yeah.
So, and that doesn't happen in Latin America. That obviously it doesn't happen here. But I think that model makes these places a little bit more sustainable.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was in Tokyo a couple of years ago, and what impressed me more than just food and everything was how many just small independent businesses there were. Like I was there writing about wine and like wine bars specifically, and there were so many of these like little bars that had like 3 seats. They could just focus on this very very niche topic in this giant city because there's an audience for everything, I guess. But they could make a fucking 3 seat bar serving just wines from a certain part of France in a certain style, and they can make that work.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's like, and then maybe they take off and eventually they expand a little bit, but then add like 6 seats. And
Mhm.
there's all these restaurants, like all these amazing like 3 Michelin star restaurants that began in these like 6 seat counters in this little hall, and they're still basically that. Maybe the kitchen's a little nicer or whatever, but it makes me wonder, like, why is it so easy there to just follow your passion of whatever weird shit you are into, create a business out of it, and you can make it work without just having a line out the door all the time and all this attention nonstop. But you can just make that living off a little bit of following.
Yeah, man. That's a we all know why, man. That's a deep conversation. That's too deep for right now, man. We'll go off the rails. We'll go off the if we go from this point and continue this conversation, we're gonna go off the rails, guys. We're gonna just they might throw us in jail or some shit.
Yeah, I don't
Shit
know.
we'll talk about, but anyway, yeah. At the end of the day, man, I'm a baker, man. I'm all I want to do is bake bread. All I want to do is bake bread, and if continuing to write about it, or make instructional videos about it. Basically, how can I sustain my life while living my passion? Because I have learned that it is unsustainable to attempt a production of any sort. It's just too much. So, that's where I'm at, man. I love writing. I love making books. I love making recipes. Do I get the fulfillment that I truly want from the bottom of my heart? Not necessarily. I definitely want a little spot somewhere where I'm pulling out some coconut breads and serving some Honduran coffee to people. That shit would be so cool, man. I
So
dream of the day.
you think you've turned off of that idea forever, or just
Not
right
forever.
now?
Not forever,
Okay,
man. I'm
okay.
I'm 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 35.
For now.
There's plenty of time at some point to do it, but it has to make sense
Yeah.
for my health and my financial health, physical health, and mental health. Those are the three most important things we all have in this world, man. And we got it. At a certain point, like living in New York has been a nice buzz and shock to the system for the past 4 years. But I'm a Southern boy. You heard me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm from New Orleans. I need to slow down the way my brain is operating, recalibrate, the path forward and not get caught up too much in the hype and caught up too much in the hype machine of these cities and socials and like, oh, if you're a cool chef, you got to open up a concept. You got to open up
Yeah,
a
yeah.
concept. You know what I'm saying? You got, that, and that it will catch my brain a little bit. Where yeah, man, I got to make the best bakery in New York. I got to go find $1 million so I can open it up. I got to partner with that. There's that. Slow it down, buddy. You heard me.
Yeah.
So I'm just taking a break.
What do you think connected you in the first place with baking and this world?
Oh man. I am so I'm from New Orleans, and when I was going through college, I had to pay for it. I got like a little scholarship, but I wasn't killing it in high school or anything. So I had a little scholarship. So I was a cook. I started as a cook. I started in the kitchens, prep cook, line cook, doing po' boys, doing etouffees, red beans, oyster Rockefeller. Man, I was killing it. I was a good cook. I am a good cook. And New Orleans is a food city. It's a food city. But I just got burnt out of the line cook lifestyle, even though I was like 18, 19, 20, and it was fun to, drink and fucking, you know what I'm saying? It's like late night, I'm drinking, I'm in New Orleans, I'm a cook, I'm going out after to the parties and all that kind of thing. It was fun. But like at a certain point, I was getting exhausted, and I'm a morning person, 100% morning person.
That helps.
So I was getting my accounting degree, so I was always up at 6 a.m. I did become a CPA, by the way, but I was always up at like 6 a.m. and I was like, man, it's like I don't know how to sleep in. To this day, I don't know how to sleep in. I like to wake up, start my day when it's quiet, and so I started baking king cakes. Started going off to during Mardi Gras selling king cake by the slice, and that shit was fun. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yeah, this is dope. Then I was like, what else could I bake? Started making croissants, started making baguettes, and I just got addicted to it. I mean, this was a long time ago. Then I started working in bakeries and started my own wholesale bakery in Miami and I can't let it go. I love it. I love baking, man. I'm addicted to it, bro. Like it's incredible. It's so soothing. It's the best, in my opinion, it's the best thing you could possibly do in your kitchen at home. But it's my personal opinion. The most rewarding. I'm looking at a jar of sweet sourdough pre-ferment. That's what, if you see me keep looking, I'm looking at this jar because I'm gonna bake something super dope with it, and I've literally over the past hour watched it grow, and so I'm like, it's just touching dough, bro. Like I don't know what to say. I mean, it just makes me feel incredible. So as long as I still have that fire in me, as long as I still have that passion in me, man, like I'm gonna continue doing this for a very long time. And no matter how the media shifts and how the money shifts and how the climate, the actual climate of the world and the climate of our industry shifts, I'm going to do my best to find the right place for what I bring to the table, which is just a passion for not just Latin American baking, but just educating people on how to bake.
That's great.
So between the first book and this book, like what changed? Do you think? Like, I mean, your approach to everything, was it very different? Like the first book happened, you were kind of like, how did the first book happen? Like, let's go through it. Like you had a blog that like overnight was kind of like a big success, right? Like it just kind of blew up.
Yeah.
And why did it blow up at first? I don't think I knew you when it this happened yet.
I think I again, the old head mentality, but man, like social media was different back then, and the being a baker or someone that shared baked goods and baking on social media, that it was like a community. It definitely is not the same at all, but it used to be, there were specific hashtags you could follow and you could get into these like bread baking groups, and like, there was, you start to learn who are the popular bakers. This guy Adam Pagor in England, they got, and you start to watch, start to communicate with them. And I was at the time living in I moved to Miami from New Orleans to pursue actually to pursue I was 25 or 26, so I was trying to pursue a soccer playing career. Actually,
Oh,
I
yeah.
was really good, and so I was also coaching. So I love soccer. It's like that's like, aside from baking, it's like the two things that keep my brain happy. So I moved to Miami. I was doing some soccer, doing some baking, but then I tore my Achilles tendon, and
Mm.
kind of was like the sign of also just like, bro, you're 26, like give it
Yeah.
up, like stop. Like you're good, but just stop. If you were actually good, you'd be somewhere by now. So I was like, all right, fine, yeah. So while my Achilles was torn, I was like, I need to take my baking to the next level. This is in like 2015 or 2016. I was like, I gotta take my baking to the next level, man. Like I've been making king cakes, I've been making all, croissants. So I started making various types of sourdough, bread, sourdough, and I'd bring it to the practice where I was coaching. I'd sell it to the parents. I started a hustle. I would bring breads for the parents, sweets for the kids. Everyone was vibing. And it got to the point where I was very focused on the European style of baking. I
Mhm.
mean, I will say 100%. You could, if you seriously go on my Instagram, don't actually do this, but if you did, if you were bored at 2 a.m. at night and you're scrolling, go all the way down my page. You're gonna see a ton of crumb shots and baguettes and shit and croissants and like it's all the way down there from years and years ago. And my mom visited me once in Miami, and I was baking all this shit with the sourdough and everything. And she was like, "Hey, why?" She's literally just like, "Why don't you make pan de coco? Make me one." She's like, "I want some," and I was like, "A word." Seriously, it's like, I literally was like, "Pan de coco,
Yeah.
but some hondureño." You know what I'm saying? Why not, bruh? I made that shit. I posted a video of that, and it just literally
Yeah.
it just took off because people were
Ah.
like, "Yo, like, I didn't know you could make something like that with sourdough." And
Hmm.
that little light bulb moment happened for me too. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So like, I just did something that's new to people. And so I was like, how do I give this recipe? I guess I go start a blog. So I go and do my little research, get on like Wix or Squarespace or some really
Yeah.
basic shit.
Right. Right.
And I threw the recipe up there. And for the next couple years, bro, every day people was making this recipe. And then started doing more recipes. And a publisher reached out. And that was it. They were like, yo, like, we think your approach to making sourdough is really cool. You want to make a book? And I was like, what? I was like, fuck, what did I make a book for? But yeah, I'll make a book, dude. Are you kidding me? Who the hell am I? I mean, I like 800 followers, literally. It was just, I was like, whatever, yeah, I'll make a book. And then I started working at Sullivan Street Bakery in Miami, and a bagel shop. Started sharpening my skills. Uh, and once the book deal went through, this was in 2018. I don't know the years anymore. I was like, I'm picking up steam here. I was like, I want to do something bigger than just working at these bakeries. So I started some bakeries started hitting me up in Latin America for consulting. I got hit up by a bakery in Panama. I got hit up by a bakery in Colombia. I got hit up by a bakery in Bolivia. You heard me? Because I started posting more like Latino shit, bro.
Hmm.
I started just going in. I was like pan de coco, semitas, birotes. I was just making it. And then I started traveling down there to do some consulting and helping people make better bread, helping people make sourdough. Came back to Miami and started working as a head baker for a restaurant group, and at the same time I was running the blog and the brand stuff.
Hmm.
So all leading up to the pub date of June 16, 2020, which was, set in stone. And then the pandemic hit. And, in the middle of the traumatic experience we all went through, people started baking fucking bread, dude. I mean, like, what can I say? It was a book born out of really just trying to do something cool. You know what I'm saying? Trying to make recipes in a cool way with a different approach. And it was never a book intended to say I'm an authoritative artisanal baker. And I don't know, man. I mean, I was just trying to do something cool. So um, it definitely elevated me to different levels. And my wife actually produced my first TV show. She reached out to me. She reached out to me before the book came out. So she reached out to me pretty early. She's the first TV producer to ever reach out to me. Thank God we're having a kid now. So guess that worked out for me. I got a TV show wife and a kid out of that shit. Come on now. So anyway, that, things kind of just have snowballed from there. I do think that I missed the window to have that mom and pop experience bakery, which is something I was like kind of trying to do at the same time. But the media stuff, it comes fast. They pay a lot of money to do things. It takes a lot of time. And so as the window closed, you find yourself in these conditions now in bigger cities with bigger developments and big, just unaffordable labor. Like things are just the inflation rates and everything. And so it's like, I was like, oh shit. So now I'm sitting here. I'm like, maybe I don't need to do that. Cause like, I don't see how I could enter that arena anymore. But anyway, that's kind of very, very long story, very, very short.
Yeah, but so now this book, like when I think like before publishing, you were a little worried that, in the book, like right on the first page, you start talking about colonialism, talk about slavery, right in the introduction. You were worried, like a few months ago, like, am I fucking scaring people? Like, is it? But it's the people have come around, right? Like, I feel like suddenly in the last like few weeks, month, it's everywhere.
Listen, yeah, I don't know how I feel about it anymore, man. I'm telling you right now, 1 minute, 15 publishers are lined up,
Yeah,
and in a bidding war over this book. And every journalist is writing about, after New World, between 2020 and 2021, after New World Sourdough comes out, every journalist and their fucking mother is emailing me. Every TV producer is emailing me, interested to talk about, the anti this and that, black baker, colonial. You fast forward a couple years, my G, and with I feel like there's a big shift happening in consumers, and nobody really wants to talk about this shit no more.
mm-hmm.
There's in my opinion, a huge shift, and it's tone at the top. Not gonna assume your political affiliations, but there's new energy coming into the country. There's a new energy to change and delete textbooks and change how things are taught to kids in this country. There's a new energy to suppress this information, even on. I mean, I know I'm seeing this no more fact checking or whatever, but I mean, if you're on social media and you want to start post, hey, if I want to start posting about colonization today, I'm gonna tell you right now, it ain't gonna work out well like it used to. It used to work. People used to want to talk about it. People used to want to write about it. And I thought it was insane when my book was coming out. I was kind of like, what happened to all these people 3 years ago that was hitting me up every day, nonstop, to talk about this shit? Every reporter, journalist, every news outlet was hitting me up. And now the book's coming out and there's not a peep. There's not a peep from them. Which is fine. I'm not saying this shit is so dope that everyone needs to be talking about it. I just think it's an interesting. Then I start to feel like I'm like, okay, so this book is dope. It's coming out, and then you start to see the opinions of journalists come out via these cookbook lists and all this kind of thing. And I was like, there are baking books about cookies that make the New York Times best cookbooks list, LA Times best cookbooks list, about cookies. Or listen, bro, this ain't. I love all my colleagues. It was strange. It was strange to not get a sniff at a little bit more energy behind a book that was very different than the baking books that have come out, and the energy that these very journalists fueled me with. Yeah. And gassed me up with and pumped me up with. And it just felt like at the finish. Now the sales are fine, by the way. Just so everyone knows, the sales are fucking fine. On the consumer end, it's doing great. so many people DMing me pictures baking from it. It's that side is great. I love like that. The sales are great, but the press side of it, there was a little bit, but it's a little interesting. There's not a lot of people wanting to have these conversations specifically.
Right.
When you say the word slavery right now, good luck. Good luck getting people to amplify and believe you. We're at the point where it's like, do we have to convince most of America that this happened? Or you know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, but it's weird how things shifted so quick. Like, pandemic happens, suddenly everyone's an ally. Everyone's.
It was George Floyd. It was George Floyd's rest in peace. It was George Floyd's murder that sent everyone running looking for a black friend, everyone running looking for a black ally, looking for a black face, not putting on blackface, but looking for a black individual to pump up. I'm telling you right now, I remember specifically everything that happened, and as soon as that moment of Black Lives Matter occurred during the pandemic, and the food media was in a frenzy. Gordon Ramsay's vice president of production emailed me. A24 emailed me. Brian McGinnis from Chef's Table called me on the phone. That's how I met David Chang. That's how I met Samin Nasrat. No, this is not like saying that tricky, but they ain't gonna hear it. Fuck it. It's true though. It's true. I got all these phone calls after this movement.
Yeah.
So do with it what you will, bro.
No, but it's like, what's gonna happen now? It's like all those people, are they still, like what's their thinking now? Like, what was everything just like a trend? Like suddenly,
100%.
like black rights suddenly matter for a year, and then suddenly now they don't anymore. Like, okay, let's welcome Trump in. Let's see what happens. Maybe he can do something. No, he's gonna fucking. But what gives me some hope is that the backlash to Trump the last time created, I think, was part of what caused everyone to rally around Black Lives Matter and all of these kind of social movements. Maybe the backlash this next time is going to be even bigger and more lasting. I hope. I don't know.
Bro, while we were on this call, I got an update on my thing that said Meta is discontinuing their DEI. Listen, I'm not saying DEI, but DEI is like, it's like the word woke. It's like,
I know. It's like these are
signs of, it's not about the specific issue. It's more about signs of how all these issues are now shit's about to get real, y'all. Anyway, again, we could go in a different direction of this conversation, but it does impact my work. Of course it does, because my work, a large body of my work is about our history, and that particular history is they're trying to do away with it. So
I mean, like, as I said, and I was going in earlier, I like that your books are personal, and I like that the first page, talks about colonialism and talks about slavery, because how could it not? How could you write a bread book about bread in Latin America as an Afro-Honduran baker and not talk about those things? And, even though, people are going to react what other way in social media, you have to keep talking about those things. And I think it takes, courage to do that, even in the face of, it's not going to be popular. But I think that's how ultimately the conversation continues to shift.
Well, it's tricky, man. Like, because as Black people, and that's the other thing, like, you're Black. There's a lot of different types of Black people out there, man. You got Black people of direct Caribbean descent. You got Black people of Central American descent. There's a lot of the Colombian people are Black. I mean, there's so many different types of Black people. African Americans, of course. So sometimes within the Black community, we get caught up trying to be like, oh, well, you ain't Black. Bro, we Black. Stop this shit. Anyway, but as Black people, it becomes very frustrating because at a certain point, if you keep talking about history, it's like the tables get turned on you, and people want to shut you off and say basically like, stop complaining, get over it, get on with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a talk with this dude from New Zealand. He, not even going to get into specifics of again, just
Yeah.
whatever. You know what, brother? If you're listening, brother, it is what it is. You were there too. And you know, he didn't understand what me and this other dude was talking. White American, very open-minded white American, great guy. You know, we were talking about this very issue, colonial stuff, and the dude from New Zealand was like, "Why the fuck are y'all talking about this?" And I was like, "Well, I was just, you know, this is my roots, my ancestry. It just, our conversation just went this way." He's like, who, you know, in New Zealand we don't have this like. We're just all from New Zealand, and you know we just move forward. And I'm like, okay, that's cool for you, and I'm glad that's what y'all do. But here we honor our roots and our past. Like, it's very important because our whole economic infrastructure was built on the back of enslaved people, and you know, we are often overlooked when it comes to being able to prosper in this country. We've been set up for complete failure. Oh, you know, so it's after a while when you keep talking about this as a black person, I just feel like the system is continuing to turn its screw against our you know, plight is one word, but it's like, how could you not see how detrimental slavery was for people, and how our families have been completely fucked over by this government in this country? And how could people in this day and age really just, oh, they're lazy, or they need to work harder, or stop complaining? Like, this shit starts to pop up, you know. Oh, you're just complaining, just get on with it, it happened, move on. And it's just I'm at the point where I'm like, there's like a hard right or a hard left that I can take. You know,
Mm-hmm.
is the hard right? Are you doubling down? Are you going to continue beating the drum? You know, or do you play the game a little more, lean into more? Hey, let's bake. Hey guys, let me show you how to bake bran muffins today. I think they're really great. I've got a couple new cookie recipes that
Yeah.
I want to, you know. So it's, bro, I don't even, it's honestly, this book was like traumatic to make because it continued to force it continued it forced me to read so much about how like Swiss people, a Swiss wealth was built because they built the ships that took people from Africa and enslaved them.
Mm-hmm.
The Swiss money funded that. You know, like there's so many things you start to read, and then on the back end, people are like, "Oh, well, you're lazy. You just need to work harder." And I'm like, "No, I'm not lazy. I'm not lazy. Your ancestors just had everything fucking set up." Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about, lazy? You know, so it's difficult, man, to continue to think about and talk about these issues, and also apply them into content, and you know, content, and you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
and
it's already like dehumanizing enough to you know, call it content. You know, it's not even like writing or art or whatever. It's just, it becomes.
people are selective about what trauma deserves attention and what history is going to be told. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to be interesting to watch how this all unfolds, because I don't know, you know, I don't know. So
I don't know either, but I think you talking about it whenever you can is a good thing, and I think that's all we can
Yeah.
do is, you know, just fucking acknowledge it. Like, I don't think you were even that, like in the book, you're even that like aggressive about it in any way.
I don't think so
You're
either.
basically just acknowledging it, and you know, like, these things, wheat and sugar, exist because of these, you know, awful things, and
I
doesn't
don't.
mean I'm not going to make this fucking book or enjoy these breads, but how can you not acknowledge that?
I agree with you, man. I mean, let me say this: like, in a lot of these best of cookbook lists that happened this fall, the only one I made has a black editor in chief.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Shit.
just so you know.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just leave it. I'll just leave it at that.
I know
Whatever.
what.
I don't know. I mean, coincidence. Fuck it.
Yeah.
So is what it
But do
is.
you find yourself talking less and less about that, and those are just like internal conversations you have and debates, and obviously stress and tension, and but you're still determined to just keep doing it.
Yeah, of course. In the lead up to the book in the past 4 years, 100% is it has been something that I'm very vocal about in terms of just uh, preserving history and recounting history and understanding history.
Mm.
Um, I'm big into that. Still very big into that. I'm at a point where I don't know what the next I don't know what my approach is beyond this book and beyond having talked about what I wrote in this book, because it's one thing. You meet me in person, this is most likely what I will talk about. I will somehow get to this. We'll be eating food and
I'll
all.
find my way.
Yeah, I'll find my way to this. In terms of the content I want to share, I don't know. I
Mm.
mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm posting videos about sourdough starter and it's performing great. What do I
Mm.
need to complicate things right now?
Okay, so
Um,
that's a good, yeah.
it's at the end of the day, like
Yeah.
I use social media as a tool. The only reason I'm on it, the only reason I've ever been on it in reality was as a tool to show people how to bake shit. It's never been beyond this particular issue of my heritage and ancestry and all that kind of thing. I'm not someone that's going to be vocal about anything else. You're not going to find any sort of commentary about anything going on in the world ever on my page, because I didn't get on the internet to do that. I personally just don't believe in being on the internet and talking shit to people in comments over
no,
some issue they disagree with, because that's
it's
what it
the
turns
worst way.
into.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just not my thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I love the idea of just kind of getting back to the basics, continuing to use it as a tool that I knew it for, which was, here's how you make this kind of sourdough starter, bro. Here's how you make this kind of pizza, bro. Here's the flour I use. That's the core of my work at the end of the
Hmm.
day, is just showing people simple shit to do in their kitchen for baking. I'm definitely there right now, and I'm
Hmm.
maybe just like from an output perspective, giving myself a breather from having to put myself out there all the time and be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and woe is me, fucking that sucked. But because I think there's a lot of guilt that comes with it. People of European heritage will feel guilty when they read it. They get tired of reading it, so they'll fucking unfollow me or mute me. They're like, "This dude, bro, I get it, bro. I'm sorry that my ancestors fucked yours over. I'm stopping consuming this." Whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I don't blame them. I mean, my wife is white. She's Irish and has Spanish and Irish heritage. She loves this shit though. She loves this shit, right? But at a certain point, it's giving myself time to heal from the process of making the book and digesting all of this information, and also just getting back to the core of my work, which is like, yo, let's bake, bro.
Yeah.
Let's bake
No,
really dope stuff. That's how
but
I'm starting the year.
I think ultimately that's the important thing, to share the love about baking, and as long as that stuff isn't, erased, it's there. It's always there for those who are willing
Yeah, it's
to look for
printed.
it. You know what I
It's
mean?
printed. It's on the shelf. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not going anywhere. And I'm not saying I'm always going to be me, and I'm always going to talk about the shit I want to talk about. But again, the world is bigger than me, right? Or like that's the other thing. I'm like just getting old. It's like the world's a big place. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. There's a lot of stuff that every single person feels very emotional about. Every individual person on this whole planet has something that they're very passionate about. And oftentimes, most people don't give a shit about what you're passionate about. People don't really care about each other anymore, in my opinion. It's become a very, very unusual way to exist that's being amplified by social media tools, AI, and our president. And I don't know, man. It's just, I think going back to the basics, it feels right to me.
But
You
I
know?
also think it's, I mean, the more we interact with media and digital language, I think we are learning to know what is worth expressing to these channels and what is worth discussing in person.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
No, honestly, I think person to person, people really do care about each other.
It's so
Yes.
I
different
think.
when, I mean, the same thing you read in a text, even if it's Instagram or something else, and if you say the same to a person in person, the reaction might be different.
Mhm.
It's just, there are things that are not worth, just because I don't know what text has, or when people not having the tone or
Mhm.
something that makes it different. Maybe reels, I don't know, but I think it's a matter of nuancing those comments and definitely not shut up in person. I don't know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say
but
that.
I cut you off. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, go ahead,
And
Nick.
go ahead. I don't even remember at this
No,
point.
I was just
Sorry.
I no,
So,
I was just gonna say that you hit the nail on the head, and like it. I the other day sat down and I was like, how many people do I talk to in person meaningfully? And the answer is like 10.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Yeah.
there's probably 10 people that I have the chance to have meaningful conversations with. Let's just say in the past year. I mean, it's like my wife, my sister,
Yeah.
my mom, um, my brother. It's like that. It goes
Yeah.
back to the basics because it's just not. It's not that much meaningful connection happening, in my opinion, on social media, and so it's forced me to think about what is meaningful connection and how do you find it in life, which is why I'm moving out of the city for sure, to try to just unplug from, this is that common shit, oh, unplug from the matrix, that's what we say, right? Unplug from these ideas that are starting to intensify to a point where I'm a little bit um, uncertain of how it's supposed to go down. But I think social media is incredible, of course. I mean, I use it for work every day. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not like, I'm not going to be done with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a very critical part of what we do because that's how we get our message out there. Getting on Substack myself has been awesome because the people that subscribe to the Substack, they're there for a recipe.
Yeah.
They're not there for any other shit. They're there because they
Mhm.
want the recipes.
No,
And if they're, that's it. That's why they're on it. So, but
yeah.
someone that follows me on Instagram is not on Instagram specifically for me
Yeah.
or for my recipes. They're just on Instagram. So
Yeah.
I do love the shift to the newsletter, the writing approach, where you can actually just focus on the core. As you know, obviously, y'all, it's great, right? It's a true community. If you.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, and what I appreciate is things don't have to go viral. You don't need a billion fucking views to make something work. It's just you're writing for those people that are already subscribed, and hopefully you get a few more, here and there. But you're writing for that community. You're not trying to impress everyone in the world. You
Correct.
can fucking be yourself,
Yep.
and they like you or they don't. But if they stay there, hopefully they appreciate what you're doing and read. But
No,
it's a
100%.
different approach, and it's like it's hard to you know think of writing and creating content for lack of a better word in that way, because we've been trained over the last 10 years is like, you need fucking everyone to look at this, you need reactions and likes and all this stuff. But it's like, I know some of the best things I write on Substack that people love the best, it's like they don't even like it or share it, or it has nothing to do with that. They just, I'll have a conversation with somebody later on where they'll talk about something, and
Yep.
it's like, yeah, it would have been nice if you fucking liked that, but I'm glad you fucking, read the whole, 2,000 word essay that I just wrote,
Yeah.
and you didn't just like, like something and scroll up, on Instagram, or
That
whatever.
yeah, man. And
It's like they're invested a little bit. They can go a little bit deeper. So to get that, recipe for tostakas or whatever, they do have to, maybe, read a sentence about colonialism or just like an acknowledgement of it, and I think that's good. I think that's a positive thing. And I'm not saying like Substack's the way, but I know that Substack doesn't know my subscriber list of content, so I could fucking take it elsewhere
yep,
when eventually they do fuck up and
yep.
get bought by fucking whoever,
That's the
Elon Musk.
that's the thing, right? Like the subscribers, the people that actually chose to subscribe to your work are they're I think they're the most important people out there right now. They're the
Yeah.
they're in my opinion, as an author, as someone who's creating recipes and that kind of thing, they're way more important than followers. I'll take, what I'm saying? Like if
Yeah.
because one day if these apps, these other ones shut down or some shit or whatever, like literally like TikTok literally might shut down. What do you own? Who do you have within your network? And if you didn't build it, but it's funny what you say, and like I wouldn't be talking like this on a regular podcast, bro. I wouldn't be talking like this if I was on any of these popular podcasts, bro. I would, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking like this because I know
we're definitely not popular. I can assure you.
No, I didn't mean like
no. But like, to be fair,
like a main like if I was on like a Food 5-2.
No, I
like,
gotcha. But
because people don't want to hear this shit. But anyone that's still listening right now is a real motherfucker, bro. Like and the people that are gonna listen to this episode are the people I want to talk to like this. That's why I'm talking like this. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the interesting part about coming on with you here with New World. Is I was like, I'm gonna just go talk real, because I know the people that subscribe, they don't want to hear the shit that I would say on like Taste. When I'm on Taste, it's like, well, yeah, I wrote Pan Y Dulce because I was really in touch with my roots. Or the really generic elevator pitch shit that I got to give to the like when I go on the Today Show. Like, I'm on like with Carson Daly. It was so Carson Daly. That shit was funny. I was doing brigadeiros with him, and he was like, oh, brigadeiros. Was this like was something with the military happening? I was like, pivot, don't do it, don't talk about just. I was like, I literally it's like live, and I was like, yeah. These were created when Brazil was going through some things. So anyway, so you mix the condensed milk with the trying to keep you got to keep it light and fresh. When you're talking in the ultra mainstream, man, you go too deep. I don't know, man. Am I being like cynical?
No.
Am I being cynical? Like shit?
No. I think it's. I think you have to pick your battles and the places for these battles, and and I don't know. That's it. And I think I've, in terms of a business perspective, I've probably always chosen the wrong path. Like I've always talked about things that weren't popular and that made people uncomfortable, I think. And that's definitely not like a good career move, I would assume, like in the long term. But at the same time, it's like I can't think of doing at least what I do in the way I do it. I can't think of another way to do it. I don't know.
And there is also a difference between maybe not saying much and or saying just generics, as you said, with Brazil and going to some issues, and that's different from approving what the other person is saying, and that I think is a huge difference and a deal, like a boundary, like a limit. If you see yourself, which I don't think you are, and I don't think Nick is, and hopefully I'm not doing that either. It's approving just with your silence or avoiding, because that's when then I think values are compromised, and that's not worth. It's not worth living that way, at least not for me.
No, not at all.
No, I think you've done a really good job of carving the path in like a good positive way with substance. You know, like as we started off talking about bread and just like so technical and impersonal, it just felt like a manual that I don't know, like, and it was just so intimidating. And but the way you do it, like as I said, it feels personal, it feels human, and I think food is ultimately, you know, cooking at least is ultimately human. And
I hope so. I mean,
yeah,
you got people, you got Action Bronson with Meta AI glasses making recipes and fucking
uh,
posting videos about it. So I mean, it's like
is that cool? Like
no,
maybe that's cool though. I don't know.
I don't think it's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's the demise of a proper cookbook, the demise of a proper recipe creator. Because if you're basically saying fuck anyone that can actually do the research to create recipes, just put these glasses on and look at the ingredients, it'll tell you what to do. Like that's some heavy shit. It's some heavy
I mean,
shit.
I could see it being entertaining in some ways. Like if you know, you could put on Ferran Adria's glasses in the kitchen of El Bulli and, you know, 20 years ago and like just watch how that menu like came to be. That could be cool.
But
But yeah,
I think
but like creating recipes, I could see how
I
that'd
think it's
be.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
like that's the whole purpose of the cookbook is that moment when you're in the
yeah,
kitchen and you look at these ingredients. You know, how I grew up was like, oh man, let me go get Alice Waters' The Art of Simple Cooking because I know I could do something with the celery and this, and
uh-huh.
then you find this, you know, and then you cook it, and that's literally the whole, you know. So when I see someone who makes cookbooks doing a meta sponsorship post like that, I'm like, dang, bruh, like you make cookbooks though, like you, what the fuck, like why are you going to that? I mean, again, I'm not saying it's like wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
technology is technology. I'm looking at it as like, so I mean, I could go on a software and just like, not me, obviously not me. Anyone off the couch could go off a software right now and like churn out a book, really, or a
Mm-hmm.
blog. They could just like pop in some fucking a prompt. Hey, make me a blog that has 10 cookie recipes, 10 bread recipes, and 10 brownie recipes, and make sure that you use this ingredient. And you can type all that shit into some shit, and it'll do that shit for you. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, like that shit is definitely happening right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I think I don't know. I think for a long time, though, to be fair, things have just been copied and pasted, you know, in a lot of writing, in a lot of shit on the internet. And I think, you know, eventually, hopefully, actual work with actual people behind it starts to be valued again in some way. And just that shit that was copied and pasted already is now just AI. I don't know.
I don't know either,
I don't
man.
know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. The future,
You should
man. It's scary.
title
Yeah.
this episode. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know what we're talking about. We don't know what.
We could talk all day about this shit. It's
Hey
fine.
man, we should,
Yeah.
and as we
Yeah.
should, by the
As
way,
we should.
because you know, this is, I think the reason we're still talking right now is because we need to. We need to. It's not
It's
often.
important.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, like you know, it's not that I don't have friends or anything like that, but you know, everyone's so busy and all that kind of thing. It's like sometimes I do feel like I'm just like stewing in these thoughts, or you know, like my wife and I or whatever, we'll talk about it, but like I'm just like, man, I got to get this shit off my chest, bro.
Oh, good. Well, thanks for coming here to do it. I'm always
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
anytime,
always open to debate these
man,
uncomfortable
anytime.
things that aren't popular.
Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going, man. Let's continue to talk. Let's continue to work together and communicate and find ways to, I don't know, stay on this path we're on in a meaningful way. I think that's pretty much all we can ask for.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Let me know when you are in LA. I'd love to meet.
Absolutely, I will do. And stay safe out there. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, y'all.
Thanks.
Peace.
All right. All right. I stopped.